Somewhere in Orlando, Florida, there is a surveillance tape. It's grainy, shot in the early hours of the morning. The timestamp reads January 24th, 2006. 13 hours, 0 minutes, 27 seconds. On that tape, a figure walks away from a parked car, unhurried, calm, completely unaware of the camera. They walk through a gate. They disappear. And for nearly 20 years, nobody has been able to tell us who that person is. Not the Orlando Police Department, not the FBI, not NASA. Yes, NASA was brought in to enhance the footage. Nobody. The car they walked away from belonged to a 24-year-old woman named Jennifer Kesse. She had driven it to work that morning. Except Jennifer was never seen again. The car was found, the surveillance tape was found, the ghost on the tape was found, but Jennifer, gone. To understand how a young woman can simply vanish in broad daylight from a gated community in a city of 2 million people, you first need to understand who Jennifer Kesse was, because Jennifer wasn't a woman who took risks. She was a woman who had done everything right. She grew up in Tampa, Florida, in a close, loving family. Her parents, Drew and Joyce, her brother Logan. The kind of family where a rule existed. You always answer each other's calls. Always. No exceptions. No matter what. Jennifer graduated from the University of Central Florida in 2003 with a degree in finance. Within a few years, she had worked her way up to a project manager position at a timeshare company, a job she was good at, a job she was proud of. And then she did something that, at 24 years old, most people only dream about, and she bought her own condominium. Not rented, bought. A place of her own, in a gated community near the mall at Millenia in Orlando. She had a guard at the entrance. She had locks on her doors. She had everything she needed to feel safe. Her mother, Joyce, said it simply. She was just really happy. And she was. Jennifer Kesse was a young woman at the beginning of everything. A career taking off, a home she owned, and a boyfriend she was falling in love with. His name was Rob Allen. He lived in Fort Lauderdale, about 3 hours away. They made the distance work. Every weekend, one of them made the drive. Her best friend told her after one trip together, "Oh, you're in love and you just don't want to admit it." Jennifer smiled, because her best friend was right. The week before she disappeared, Jennifer and Rob took a trip to St. Croix in the Caribbean. A vacation. Sun, warmth, time together. By all accounts, it was perfect. They flew back to Florida on Sunday, January 22nd, 2006. Rob to Fort Lauderdale, Jennifer to Orlando. They said goodbye at the airport the way couples do when they know they'll see each other again soon. Jennifer drove home to her condo. She unpacked, she settled in. The next morning, Monday, January 23rd, she went to work as normal. She called Rob that evening, the way she always did. She spoke to her parents. Everything was ordinary. That night, investigators believe Jennifer Kesse was alive and in her apartment. But sometime between that phone call and the next morning, something happened. Something that has never been explained. Tuesday, January 24th, 2006. Morning Jennifer's boyfriend Rob Allen woke up in Fort Lauderdale expecting his morning text. The one Jennifer always sent. The small routine message that said, "I'm here, I'm fine, good morning." It never came. He tried calling. Voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. He left messages, assuming she was caught up with work. He wasn't alarmed yet, but about an hour and a half into the workday, Jennifer's colleagues called her parents. Jennifer had a meeting that morning. It wasn't like her to miss it. It wasn't like her to not call. Did they know where she was? Drew Kesse tried to call his daughter. The phone rang once, then went straight to voicemail. "I knew something was wrong immediately," he said. Drew and Joyce got in the car and drove 2 hours from Tampa to Orlando. They arrived at Jennifer's condominium and found something that stopped them cold. The front door was locked. Her car was gone. But her blinds, which Jennifer always closed before leaving, were open. Her breakfast was half eaten on the counter. Her jewellery was laid out on the bathroom counter as if she had been getting ready and simply stopped. And her outfit, the clothes she had planned to wear to work, was laid out on her bed, untouched. Something had interrupted her morning. Something had taken her before she was ready. She had never made it to her car, or so they thought. 2 days later, January the 26th, 2006, Jennifer's 2004 Chevrolet Malibu was found abandoned. Not far, not across the state. Just under a mile from her front door, parked at a nearby apartment complex called Huntington on the Green. And that is where this case stopped making sense and started making history. Because when investigators pulled the security footage from that apartment complex, they found something. Someone had parked Jennifer's car there. The timestamp, January 24th, 2006, 1327. On the tape, a figure gets out of Jennifer's car, walks through a gate in the complex, and disappears from view. The walk is unhurried, deliberate. The figure knows where they're going. For a moment, just a moment, you think, we have them. And then you look closer. The image is grainy. The resolution is poor. A metal fence runs across the bottom of the frame, obscuring the figure's legs. You cannot see a face. You cannot tell height. You cannot determine age with certainty. All investigators could say with confidence was, the figure appeared to be between 5'1" and 5'3". They were wearing dark shorts and a light-coloured top. That was it. That was all. The FBI requested the footage. Forensic analysts worked on it. NASA, the actual space agency, was brought in to apply image enhancement technology. The image did not improve enough to make an identification. For 20 years, that figure has been known simply as the person of interest. A shape, a silhouette, a ghost. The car itself told a story, but only part of one. Investigators found evidence of a possible struggle. The car had been wiped down. A single latent fingerprint was recovered. A small DNA fibre was found. The valuable items, her phone, her iPod, her keys, her purse, her briefcase, were all missing. But the items most thieves take, cash, visible electronics left in plain sight, were untouched. This was not a robbery. A search dog tracked Jennifer's scent from the abandoned car and followed it all the way back to her apartment complex. Not away from it. Back to it. Which meant investigators had to consider something uncomfortable. Whoever drove that car likely knew Jennifer's building, knew the area, maybe even knew the layout. The question wasn't just who took her, it was who knew where to find her. And that is where the investigation turned to the construction workers. At the time of Jennifer's disappearance, her condominium complex was undergoing a major renovation. Dozens of labourers were on site daily. Many of them were non-English speaking, which created an immediate barrier for investigators trying to conduct interviews. But here is the detail that changes everything. Jennifer had told her family about these workers, multiple times. She told them the men on site had been catcalling her, whistling at her, following her with their eyes every time she walked to her car. It made her uncomfortable. She mentioned it more than once. Private investigator Michael Toretta, hired by the Kesse family years later, discovered something that had been overlooked. Up to 10 construction workers had been living illegally inside an empty apartment directly across from Jennifer's unit. They had a direct line of sight to her door. They saw her routines. They saw when she left. They saw when she came home. And on the morning of January 24th, when Jennifer walked out of her front door to go to work, some of those workers were already there, waiting, or at least present. 10 months after Jennifer disappeared, a witness reported seeing someone dump a rolled-up piece of carpet into a lake near her complex. That carpet was never recovered. That lead was never fully investigated. The years that followed were marked by something that haunts this case as much as the crime itself: institutional failure. The Orlando Police Department, for all their initial urgency, ultimately let the investigation stagnate. Leads went cold. Interviews were not pursued. The Kesse family, who never stopped searching, grew increasingly frustrated with the answers they weren't getting. In 2016, 10 years after Jennifer vanished, the state of Florida declared her legally dead. Drew Kesse described signing that paperwork as one of the hardest things he had ever done in his life. In 2018, the family sued the Orlando Police Department for access to their daughter's case files. After months of legal battles, they settled and received over 16,000 pages of documents and 67 hours of video and audio recordings. They read every page. They watched every hour. And in 2022, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the FDLE, took over the case entirely. That decision would change everything. This is where the story takes a turn that nobody expected. In October 2025, nearly 20 years after Jennifer disappeared, her father, Drew Kesse, sat down to write a Facebook post. But what he shared stopped the true crime world in its tracks. The FDLE had found DNA evidence on materials that had never been tested. Not new evidence, old evidence. Evidence that had been sitting in storage for nearly 2 decades, untouched, unexamined, overlooked. The DNA had been found, and the list of suspects had been narrowed down to just a few individuals. Drew Kesse said, and I want you to hear this exactly as he said it. FDLE informed us that they are down to just a few people. They have been able to disqualify a lot of people just through investigations and interrogations. It's exciting to see. FDLE also confirmed they are now working with an artificial intelligence company to reanalyze all the case files, including, potentially, that surveillance footage. The grainy, fence-obscured, and the 20-year-old footage of the ghost who walked away from Jennifer's car. The case is no longer cold. As of January 2026, the FDLE confirmed they are actively pursuing this investigation. Their special agent in charge said 4 words that Jennifer's family has waited 20 years to hear. We are getting somewhere. Drew Kesse is 68 years old now. He was 48 when his daughter disappeared. He has not slept a full night in 20 years. He told reporters that both he and his wife Joyce have battled serious health issues in recent years, but he has never stopped. He built a team of private investigators. He obtained the case files through litigation. He pushed for 2 years to get investigators to use AI technology on the evidence. He did everything a father could possibly do. He said this, Ina, and I think about it often. It's in my DNA that I'm going to find my daughter. Period. A documentary is currently in production about Jennifer's case. Drew Kesse wants it on Netflix. He wants the biggest possible audience. Because somewhere out there, someone knows something. Maybe someone recognizes that walk on the surveillance tape, now that AI is sharpening it. Maybe someone remembers something from a construction site in 2006. Maybe someone heard something, saw something, and stayed quiet for 20 years because they were afraid. But fear fades. Conscience doesn't. Jennifer Kesse was 24 years old. She had a finance degree, a condo she bought herself, a family rule that you always answer the phone, and a boyfriend she was falling in love with. She went on a vacation, she came home, she laid out her outfit for work. On it, and then she was gone. Somewhere in Orlando, or somewhere beyond it. Jennifer is waiting to be found. Her father has promised he will find her. The FDLE has promised they are getting somewhere. The ghost on the surveillance tape has walked free for 20 years. But DNA does not lie, and neither does time. If you have any information about Jennifer Kesse's disappearance, contact the Florida Department of Law Enforcement directly at 1-800-226-3362, or visit the Find Jennifer Kesse Facebook page, run by her family. Only trust information that comes directly from the Kesse family or the FDLE. Jennifer's family is still out there, still looking, still answering every call, because that is the rule in their family. You always answer. This is Peak Crime Stories. If this case haunted you the way it haunts me, share it. And someone who watches this video might be the person who finally puts a name to that figure on the tape. Subscribe for a new investigation every week. And leave your theories on this case in the comments. I read every single one. Jennifer, we haven't forgotten.